Good evening, everybody. We are thrilled to have everybody gathering virtually tonight to talk about this incredible installation. Actually, I'm from the suburbs. I just say DC because it's easier. My name is Tony Brunswick. I proudly serve as the Executive Director for Art Enables. And for those of you that might be new to Art Enables, we are an art gallery and art studio dedicated to creating opportunities for artists with disabilities to be able to make, market, and earn income from their artwork. So we operate a beautiful studio and gallery space where artists can make and create their work. And the space also is transformed on a regular basis into beautiful exhibition spaces where we have the honor of working with incredibly talented artists, both within our gallery and studio, but also from the DC area. Tonight we'll be getting a chance to hear from both some of our artists and some of the visiting artists supporting the work of Art Enables. So we're really grateful that you're joining us tonight. We welcome questions, comments throughout. We also ask for your patience. We're still relatively new at coordinating all the technology to move around a space, to talk to different people. So bear with us if we have a couple snafus here and there. And for those in the DC area, we would love for you to come and visit us in person. We are open to the public every Saturday from 9 to 5 and Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Those are temporary COVID hours, but as things start to improve a little bit more over the coming months, we'll be increasing our public gallery hours. So we hope to have more chances for people to come and see us. So thank you again. We're really excited for tonight's conversation. We're grateful that you joined us, and I will turn it over to Marissa Long, who is our gallery and manager and curator, and has coordinated a wonderful exhibition series in the studio right now. So Marissa, take it over.
Thanks, Tony. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here with us tonight to talk about our current exhibition. Actually, I'm from the suburbs. I just say DC because it's easier. It's a mouthful of an exhibition title, and it's a full gallery installation by Aaron Maier-Carretero with work by 5 of our Art Enables resident artists: Michael Haynes, Paul Lewis, Raymond Lewis, Max Poznerzon, and Nonja Tiller. And you'll see tonight, it's a very immersive installation. It's really worth seeing in person. We hope you'll come see us, like Tony said. So tonight we're going to hear from several of the artists in the show: Aaron, Nonja, Max, and Raymond. Aaron is going to be giving us a tour of the installation and also sharing some of his favorite works by Art Enables artists. And I think Tony said this, but if you have any questions or comments, please do put them in the chat. We love that, and we'll try to get to them as we go along. So to start, first I want to read the exhibition description to you as more of an introduction. In casual conversation, claiming a well-known city as your hometown rather than one of its suburbs can be more expedient than the granular truth. It can also imply the discomfort of being associated with a generic place, the notion of it being easier to explain, almost an apology for a small lie. Aaron Maier-Carretero is interested in these subtleties. His experience growing up was shaped around the idea that the American dream was built in the suburbs. To hold on to that dream, one had to embrace both its pleasantries and a more insidious culture shaped by whiteness and patriarchy, protecting and reinforcing racism and gender roles, hiding violence, and erasing or tokenizing other cultures. The private spaces of suburban homes can shelter both familial love and the dysfunction and violence of individual families and society at large. In Maier-Carretero's work, moments of tenderness coexist with tension and unease. For him, these complexities are inherently and compellingly human. The latent and overt expressions of value in the places we live, both positive and negative, form stories that transcend the suburban landscape and speak to a broader American experience. This installation invites viewers to explore a family home formed from a collage of physical objects and illustrated elements. Actual pieces of furniture coexist with household items drawn on paper or directly on the surfaces of the wall and floor. Maier-Carretero's paintings on canvas present multifaceted scenes of domestic life, along with works on paper by Art Enables artists that stand in for family photos and other household ephemera. Spaces and divisions are concrete and illusory, indicated alternately by actual walls, suggestions rendered in graphite lines, and even our own memories and expectations. So it's been really exciting seeing this show come together and to experience it in our space. and for artists to see their work in a new way. So for a lot of our artists, this was the first time seeing their work as part of an installation, and also in some instances on a larger scale. So you'll see that there are 2D works by all of the artists in the show. And then in addition, we took some of the majority actually of the drawings on the wall are based on drawings from our Art Enables artists that we projected onto the wall like this. And then Aaron traced with graphite or ink in order to incorporate them in a way that was more to scale, closer to being life size. So we're going to speak to Aaron in just a moment, but let me tell you a little bit more about him first. Aaron Maier-Carretero creates narrative paintings that use the visual language of caricature and cartoons to better understand his connection to Latinidad, whiteness, Jewishness, and maleness. He works from memories, personal photographs, and journals to make paintings that critically examine the way in which his family have bought into the American belief that to be white or closer to it is to be more important, more beautiful, more worthy of love. His goal is to expose and challenge problems such as domestic violence, physical abuse, racism, and self-hatred that proliferate unchecked for generations behind the carefully constructed facade of suburbia. Okay, so we're going to transition now over to a tour with Aaron. So give us just a second as we navigate transitioning over here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll be right back with you.
Yeah, that's so good. They can hear me?
Yeah, good.
Before I get started, I just want to say thank you to Marissa, to Art Enables, to Tony, to everybody who's kind of been involved, the artists, the resident artists that I've been working with, Nonja, Max, Michael, Paul, Raymond. I think I got it.
You got it.
And I mean, it's just really, it's awesome. I've never had this opportunity before, so thank you guys. And yeah, so I'm gonna get started, I guess, just walking through the show. And I have so many thoughts as you were talking, it was just sort of flooding, and I was like, oh man, this is all these revelations kind of happening. So I'm gonna try and keep all that for another moment in the talk. But we're starting outside of this house that was constructed. It's not an actual house that I've lived in or anything like that, but it's a house that's constructed from memories and you know, other works of art that some of the other artists had done and did for the show specifically. So we start outside. The dynamic is that you have an exterior of a suburban home with a front lawn, and then you have some things that kind of describe the space a little bit more, like facade of a house. And, I never got the planters.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, so just imagine two planters there with like plants, you know, but the whole idea was that, you know, I wanted people to come into this space because you walk down some stairs and you see this walkway and you have some sense of just a home, but not really about the people. You know, maybe there's a few things that kind of give you a little bit, like there's a basketball here, a rake, but these are things that in some ways have a generic feel to them. You know, they're very shared experiences. They're iconic American things. You know, you could probably find in other places outside of America. But for our purposes, what I wanted was to be able to give people a chance to get a little bit further inside of the home and to kind of begin to unpack what happens when you have people living in homes and the humanity really that exists, and the problems and the complexity that goes on when you're living with a family, when you're human and you're having an experience in the suburbs. So yeah, I will just kind of say out here that this was a piece. When I was walking people through the show, a lot of folks asked me questions about, you know, who did what, and you know, so this outside just kind of happened organically, as did pretty much the entire show. Me and Marissa were going back and forth through the work, trying to pick out different pieces that really felt right. And what I was looking for in all of the work was a sense of kind of like a sense of tension, a sense of something that was either adding to this narrative of something is quite right, but it's also just has its own, I don't know, there's like this unresolvedness to each piece that I really like. And I think that's important to at least my work and feeling like I can sit with a piece for a while. So yeah, that's all. So this facade was done by Michael Haynes. I really like this facade because it again, to my whole point of something feeling slightly uneasy, the figures to me, like they're in a really kind of strange way quite beautiful. I think they have like this sense of like they're very comfortable in their own skin in a way, and I really like that. Sometimes when people render portraits of people or things, I mean, there's a simplicity to them, but there's also this kind of way that they feel very comfortable in their surrounding environment. And so I wanted that to kind of reverberate into the rest of the space. This is another piece that I painted that is called Branch Drive. Again, it's the exterior of a home that I actually grew up in, which is the one in the middle. But growing up, I had a lot of domestic violence in my house, and I had memories of walking home as a kid and seeing police cars outside my house. And it was a very sort of symbolic way for me to know that something was wrong at home, and also my neighbors to know that something was wrong. But it was never really something that was talked about, or it was kind of kept inside. And that's a big theme within the suburbs, and within my work, is that these problems, these issues, they're often kind of hidden in this idea that the suburbs are the quintessential, like when you've made it in America, when you have reached this pinnacle of like the American dream, you have a home in the suburbs, and it's a beautiful home with your little plot of land and your picket fence, and everything is fine. And it's not, because we're human, and we encounter these, and we absorb these things that create suffering, that create difference, that create inequality. And so I want to point at those things in a very in a way that isn't super heavy-handed, but also doesn't let things off the hook.
And can you touch on like the drawing on the floor, like there's vinyl on the floor and stuff?
Yeah. Like, touch on that there is.
Just mention, yeah.
Oh yeah. So there's drawing on the floor, and this took a while. I laid vinyl, so this is more of a material thing, process. But I laid vinyl out on the entire floor, and I actually have a background in renovating homes, and so I've done a lot of laminating on floors, not like this, but and I drew this flooring that to me is about labor. It's about this kind of labor that goes into the fabrication of the home, and it gives me a connection to the space. Whenever I'm working in a space or building a home or have done carpentry in domestic spaces, there's an attachment to this relationship between myself and going in there. And I can get into a whole conversation about that, but I'll just kind of keep things moving.
Yeah.
The home is broken into 3 different parts. So this area right over here is the kitchen / maybe dining room. And then this is more of a living room space, the space that Marissa is now backing up in, is the living room space. And then back here in this corner is the kids / bedroom, parents' bedroom, kids' room space. And the paintings that are corresponding, the wall drawings, the objects are trying to, they're immersive. They're trying to bring you more into the psychological world that I'm creating, that the artists have created, that we're trying to create some kind of, like a collage really of different memories and moments. And so I'll start with the kitchen. I mean, this space is usually for me, it's always been like the center of the house, and I have 2 paintings here. There's a small piece by Raymond, and then a larger drawing by Paul that was based off of Van Gogh's bedroom, which I love. I freaking love that piece so much. I mean, who doesn't, right? But like it has that feeling of like, I think Matisse said, like, painting should be like sitting into a comfortable chair. That's what that painting does. I mean, I kind of wanted the kitchen to feel like that. So it was definitely like the right piece for this. I even bought this because I was like, I have this, so good. So in the kitchen, the painting that I have here that illustrates this food on the table is called Not in Front of the Kids. It's about domestic violence. It talks about my family's sort of this difficult dynamic that happens. Like we had food on the table. We had things that we had clothes on our back, you know, but we also had a lot of domestic violence in our home. And my father and mother tried their best to hide it from us. And it was in a way like something that you can't hide. You can't hide domestic violence. Children just absorb it. They absorb it through like things that you wouldn't even believe. And it's just, it's inescapable. It's just, if it's there, it's going to be absorbed and it's going to be learned. And it's going to be internalized by kids. And so this is my sister and myself. That's my father. And that's my mother's hand. Another thing about this painting is that my father would use that, you know, he would always yell, "Henry, not in front of the kids." And in a way, he was like manipulating and kind of creating this like persona that my mother was like this aggressive, wild Latina woman who would, you know, just be the only one who was creating this problem. And I never realized that until I started really thinking about this later as an adult, and how like that was, you know, a stereotype that was used to kind of create this dynamic, and this using race to kind of create, you know, a difference and to pull us apart. And I think race does that, especially in a biracial family. It's always this kind of uncomfortable feeling between having whiter family members and non-white family members, and where do you fall within that? And so there is a whole thing to, I mean, that I can go into about like that whole dynamic, but because of time, I'm gonna move on to this one, which is a painting about my father. It's called Breakfast, and it's my father having just gotten divorced with my mom. He's cooking breakfast for either himself or myself and my sister, and we're doing our homework. And you know, my dad, like a lot of men in my family, has never really given me an opportunity to see him in a very vulnerable way, and like to sit with his sadness and to see him sitting with his sadness was something that I've kind of really wanted to understand and get closer to. So I use painting to do that. I'll use the ability to paint to create this feeling of depression, of deep sorrow and grief. And also like just seeing myself in that, you know, seeing this feeling of like relating to him and trying to get closer to him in that way. And so I, you know, create this painting and kind of, you know, just to be able to have it, to see it, because it's something that in patriarchal culture is, you know, not available. It's not something that is like, you know, it's not something that men are socialized to do often, and to be that vulnerable and to be that open about their grief or their suffering. And so that's the kitchen. It's kind of heavy, but you know, there's more to the story about, like, you know, just this humanity that I'm constantly running into within the work. This painting right here is called Martin and Rita, and Martin is my grandfather who died last fall, and Rita is my grandmother who died 2012, I want to say. Or I may be getting that date wrong, but she's gone. And what happened when my grandmother died is I moved to New York, and I spent a year with my grandfather, and I was sleeping on actually a couch like that. And I never got a chance to see him grieve my grandmother. You know, he had flowers out, he had photos of her, he really did love this woman. I mean, he spent years and decades with her. And I never got to really see him like just do this, stand in front of this altar thing that he had designed and made, and just kind of show love, you know, like show this one. I would always try to hug him and say, "I love you," and he would be like, "Okay," you know, and we got like really uncomfortable. And that's fine, but what I wanted to do was use, again, painting to be able to create something that gave me access to see him in a more human way, in a more human way that I could access, that I could then appreciate and know, because, you know, even though it wasn't available to me, it doesn't mean it's not there, you know. And I think that's part of the human, you know, finding compassion for other humans, is being able to see things that aren't necessarily available to you, but you can find that through this self-reflection and you know, other ways. And so that's kind of what's going on in this piece. The last piece of mine that I think I'm probably going to talk about is this one. It's a painting of myself and my father, and it's called Waltzing with Bears, and that's a song, the title of the song that he used to sing to me when I was a kid. And he would sing lullabies to me and my sister, and, you know, we would fall asleep. And it was really beautiful. It really kind of was one of my favorite memories of my father. And I also included in this space a bunch of toys that I used to have. And my mother used to sew costumes for me and my sister. And, you know, we had these beautiful IKEA bed sheets that are like these weird clowns, and, you know, we could draw stuff. And it was really kind of a wonderful childhood. And then on the same, you know, in the same way, we also had these awful moments, these memories of really bad violence. And so there's these fist punches, or, you know, into the door. And so the contrast that I was looking for is, you know, like when I think about my childhood, how do I capture it in a way that expresses both of these dynamics, which feel like two sides of the same coin, where I have all of these sort of loving, you know, abundance of toys, abundance of love. And then I also have these really painful, very frontal, stark memories of violence. And so to me, again, using painting as a psychological tool to create worlds and to create these sort of inexplainable things that can exist because of the medium and the narrative and possibilities of storytelling, I wanted to be able to sit with this and create a very honest picture of this reality for myself, and also to be able to talk about it. And you know, there's catharsis involved in it and all of that. But so yeah, so this is the bedroom. And there are a couple other pieces. There's a painting of flowers. I do paint flowers a lot. I feel like I paint them every time I'm sad. And those are the best ones that come out, because there's just this, to me, they're like self-portraits. I mean, they're still lifes, and there's something about flowers being in a vase, you know, just sitting there and being beautiful, and then they die. And then, you know, there's something kind of romantic and also very sad and beautiful about the whole thing. And I feel that way a lot too when I think about like, one of my favorite paintings is Van Gogh's Irises in the Met, and I just can sit in front of that painting. I mean, a lot of like even Cezanne's work with still lifes, there's this just humanity that I see in them, you know, embedded in the way that they're rendered. But
I think we have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
So Omalara says, Aaron, you spoke about colorism in your childhood. In several of the paintings, you render yourself and your sister as literally brown-skinned. This stands in contrast both to the pinkish taupe skin of your father, the lighter color that you rendered yourself as the painting where you portray baby Aaron, and the actual colors that your own skin, as I have observed it, takes. Both darkening and lightening of skin have a long and loaded history in various visual mediums. Can you speak to your decision to render yourself and your sibling in this way?
Yeah. So I always struggled with painting my skin tone and my mother's skin tone and my father, because I feel like I'm so uncomfortable with it, so uncomfortable with the own color of my skin, because it means something. And it's been teased, you know, I've been teased about it by my family members and friends and people. And I just don't, you know, I've never really been quite sure, you know, what I am, you know, if I'm like white because I'm not black, or if I'm, you know, somewhere in between because I'm not white enough for my white family. And so in contrast to my dad and my dad's family, I've always felt non-white, and I've always felt much darker, even though I'm much lighter than I appear in these paintings. And I think because of my own insecurities around my skin tone, I emphasize more this darker skin tone to distinguish a separation from my relationship to my whiteness and my father's side of the family, because I felt so estranged and welcomed by my mother's side, which is much darker, indigenous ancestry, there's still European blood in my mother's side, very much so. Spanish and probably Portuguese too. But the feeling that I have, the anxiety around painting my own skin tone is starting to wane as I've gone through this whole process from the past 4 years that I've been working on this, and I've gotten to become more comfortable with it. So I don't know if that clarifies that, but
that's great. I think we have another question. How does your art help you heal? We were kind of talking about some of that just now.
Yeah. I asked my mom, she came and saw the show, and I asked her, I was like, what do you think about all this? Like, are you cool? Because I was actually, I met with a collector friend of mine, and we sat down for drinks, and when I had a second with her, and I've talked to her about it before, but I always want to check in. I'm like, are you okay with all this? Like, I'm kind of putting you on blast a little bit, like, and she's cool with it. We've talked about it, and I think that what's helpful is that it gives me a starting point to talk to my mom about these things. It gives me a starting point to bring up conversations. I mean, I live in a 500 square foot little studio, and I live with these works, so I'm always thinking about these things. And it allows me to process. I see a therapist, and I'm able to talk to them and show them the paintings and be like, hey, what do you think? And then we talk about it. And so it is, in a lot of ways, like journaling, like a conversation that I'm having with myself. And I tend to be able to, like Omo had asked about my race, like I'm able to notice things about my own insecurities or my own discomforts with myself when I start painting myself. And then I can really begin to use that as a stepping stone to heal about the things that I'm uncomfortable with. Like the color of my skin. Because if it's not out in the open, it's harder for me to be able to begin healing with it,
Do we have any other questions?
Cool. So, I don't know, what do we, I can keep talking, or do you?
If you want to touch on stuff in this corner, you can, and then we can maybe wrap up. Someone is asking, actually, where'd you get that fabulous shirt?
Oh, I appropriated this. This is actually a design from a designer who probably appropriated from somebody else, but I got some fabric markers because I didn't want to pay $200 for a shirt. I'm sorry, don't tell them. But I do buy other products from these people, and I pay way too much money for them. But so yeah, I drew this.
You're being called a thief by your friend.
I am a thief. I'm not going to shy away from that. We've had this conversation. I don't know what to say.
So maybe we'll just, if you want to just walk us through this side, and then we can sit down.
So yeah, this living room. Man, I love this living room. I was thinking about, so we have Max's work and we have Raymond's work, and Max has Elvis on TV. And I don't want to curse, but I'm going to curse. I fucking love the way Max renders flowers and plants. And the way Raymond's curtains and the lines that Raymond uses, I can't get enough of it. I see so many other artists' work that I love and adore, and I'm in a fresh way, in a different way. I don't know. I mean, I went to school in Chicago, so to me, pointillism was always this thing that hung around the Art Institute because of Sunday Dawn Rajad and all of these other, post-impressionists. But the way that, I wish you could see it in color, the way that these plants are just rendered, and man, they're just gorgeous. So I really love that there is that some of that could be translated even through the way that I was trying to figure out how to pull some of that in, but really it doesn't do it justice to the real piece when you can see it. And so this is a blending. There's parts that are missing from here. There's more to the window that was cut out. There's another window. Max actually had some window here, but I had to take it out because I think it would have just, so I took some artistic license and I kind of collaged it, which I hope is okay. Sorry, I'm stealing and moving and collaging things.
I think you were very true to the artist's work, actually.
Okay, yeah. Well, as long as you say so, I'll take it. This is my alibi. And then I was thinking about my own living room and the ones that I grew up in, which was my grandmother's little apartment in Hewitt Avenue, and just remembering all of the different things. She used to have these little Sony boom boxes, and like these nesty containers that were emptied out after being used and would hold like marbles or coins or something, usually coins, and then little elephant, you know, trinkets that were like ceramic, and Yankee candles and mugs and things that just kind of collected dust, but really filled out this space and made it feel like home. And then there's another still life of a plant that that I own, and again, it's for me like a kind of like just an exercise to keep my hand and mind and eye all connected, but also to you know, find some kind of humanity within the way that I relate to plants. And there's a plant by Nonja. What else? Oh, these books. Man. Can I just read something to you guys real quick? I mean, I don't know if you're saying no or yes, but I'm going to do it anyways. Nonja's books. I mean, Nonja's books and Maurice's book, and I mean, they're amazing. And one of my favorite things that I read today was what Nonja wrote. And Nonja has this book called The Ugly Puppy. So Nonja says, when you go to a bookstore, you don't really see that many books about people with special needs. And I would like more books about people with different types of disabilities. The Ugly Puppy is a book about a dog who has a disability. He's different and other animals make fun of him. With this book, I'm trying to let people know who we are. We are humans like anyone else. I love that. I think that describes the feelings that I have around my own work, that describes the connection that I feel that I have with the residents in this, in Art Enables, and the work that's on the walls. And I think it is about sharing and finding that common thread of humanity, and sort of dispelling these ideas that, you know, there's difference because you're in the suburbs, everything's fine, because, you know, you have a disability, like you're different. And I think that there's so much about these like beautiful poetic ways that people are rendering, you know, like Nonja's portrait here. It's incredible to me. You know, I can look at it every day and feel something. And I think that is what I'm feeling, is that human connection. So yeah, Ugly Puppy.
Whoa.
And that's it for me.
Do you want to, so let's have you sit
sure.
down. And can you let them know we're transitioning for a second?
So we're gonna transition to something, and can't remember what, but I'm gonna sit here and wait till I'm told to do something. Thanks, so.
Okay, so we have a couple questions about the collaborative process with the artists, with the resident artists, that I can partly answer. So we had 5 resident artists working on the show, and in particular, 2 of them, Nonja and Raymond, made a bunch of new work for us to use in the show. So they chose some items that they wanted to make for the house, either things that would be cut out and put on the wall, or things that would be wall drawings that you saw earlier. And for some people who were still working from home, this was a nice way for them to get involved. And then there were other pieces that we pulled out that were existing works that just worked really well, like Max's My Living Room piece was an existing work that was pulled out. Do we have other questions? No? Okay. Let me see where we are. So we actually have a chance to talk to some of these artists. Is Nonja still here? Great, Nonja's here. Sorry, give me 1 second. So Nonja is on the call with us tonight. Nonja is one of the artists in the show. So let me read her bio first. So Nonja Tiller brings her intricate creations to life through her character and narrative-driven artwork. Nonja's work often tells multiple stories at once. The absurdity of the human condition, whimsy of the animal kingdom, and the dangers of society are all targets for her keen sense of humor and detail. So you'll see in this slide here, there are 3 drawings that Nonja made for 3 of her 5 or so drawings that she made for the exhibition: this bookshelf, the window, and the couch, which you can see Aaron traced in graphite on the wall here. And she also has a fishbowl and a flower pot. and this portrait that Aaron was talking about that's a little bit cut off right here. Hi, Nonja, are you with us?
Yeah, I feel a little sleepy.
You're a little sleepy? Well, hang in there. So this is a picture of you. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, I see that. That's me.
Yeah, that's you when you first saw the show.
Yes.
So can you tell us what you were thinking when you first saw the show and saw your work in the show?
Maybe I got my own place.
You got your own place, like you liked
Yes.
seeing your work inside of the installation?
Yes.
Yeah. And what can you tell us about your work? What do you like to work on the most?
I like to work on animals and plants.
And you also have a lot of socially focused work on social issues. What can you
Yeah,
tell me about that?
Well, I've heard about the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about the wall.
Mm-hmm.
That too.
Yeah, and what feels important to you about making work about those social issues?
So I can know the world, what is going on in the world right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned the other day too that you like to sometimes make them kind of funny, so
Yes.
that add a sense of humor. Why do you like to do that?
To use my imagination.
Use your imagination. Is it a way for you to think about things that are a little upsetting sometimes too?
Sometimes.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about your work that you want people to know?
I gotta sneeze. Hold on. All right. These are like the politics right here.
Yeah, like this over here, I think is called The Trial of Donald Trump. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is Donald Trump right there. Right there at the bottom naked. That means he's ashamed. And then these are the governments.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Senate.
Yeah, that's right. And then did you hear Aaron talking about your Ugly Puppy book?
Yes, I heard about it.
Yeah, I know that was a big project, a big point of pride for you. Is there anything you want to tell us about that?
Yes. Well, that was my idea. The right characters with types of disability, and I want the world to understand, who we are and not be discrimination.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I know, Aaron, you're really into this piece of Nonja's. Do you want to say anything about this piece? I think you're muted right now.
Oh, that's me when I was 5 years old, when I first came to the foster care.
Right, that's what I heard. And this is a piece that Aaron really wanted in the show. Do you want to share some comments about it, Aaron?
I mean, Nonja, I think this is an amazing piece. I really feel like in terms of self-portraiture, it gives me such a, I don't know, like the way that you're looking at the viewer in the painting, and how your scarf, or maybe it's tied around your neck. I'm sorry. Cool. Yeah, it's just it really kind of gives me a feeling like you almost like you're like there's a tension there, like you're kind of nervous or maybe a little bit scared, but also just scared. Yeah, and I feel that, like, and I get that sense of like the way that your eyes are, and I feel like there's a whole, it kind of reminds me of just like being seen in a way where you don't really, you're not really quite sure if you want to be seen, but you're being looked at, and I don't know, I love it. I think that there's something so vulnerable about it, and so telling about how you were feeling in that moment. And I think it's pretty special. I mean, it's not easy to convey that and just also paint yourself, I love it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Aaron, do you have any other questions for Nonja?
I don't know. I think so. I do. I'm really curious about the the Thief Brothers.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you about that.
Yeah.
And that's a zine.
Yeah, you've done drawings about them. You've done painting or books about them and illustrated them.
Yeah.
Are the Thief Brothers based on real people, or are they just? I mean, because you also.
Well, the Deep Brothers, they are two friends, and they like to get into trouble. So it helped to teach teenagers to not to get in trouble, to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, they end up in. I'm sorry.
Because the book about the Thief Brothers, it helped teenagers, like a male and a female, teenagers nowadays are getting into trouble with the law. So this book will teach teenagers stay out of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I really do. You've got like 4 or 5 stories of the Thief Brothers. Yeah, I would, I want to see more. They're so good.
Great. Well, Nonja, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Sorry, guys, give us 1 second. I'm seeing a question here that says, I'm wondering if the Art Enables artists either followed Aaron's curation instructions of being introspective of their own definition of home, or had his experience reflect on in their work. I can answer this one. It was left a little bit open. We shared Aaron's work with the artists who were asked to participate. And for the artists who were making new work, we kind of left it up to them how they wanted to portray the different parts of the home, and explained how it would all be kind of coming together in a collaborative way. I'm not sure if that answers the question. Someone is saying the collaboration between Nonja Art Enables artists and Aaron is perfect. I'm wondering, what did you all learn from each other by working together? Aaron, do you have anything to say about that? One second, hold on.
Good. I went through the flat files that were that have a lot of the artist's work, and I mean, there was ways that, like, I mean, I was talking to you about this earlier, but like things like a pink snowman and you know, trees, and just the way that the imagination and the creativity around these things, these ideas that I have already sort of in my mind made up what I think they are, was just destroyed. It was like, you know, it's like when you break painting for something, or when you're able to totally destroy something, it gives more room for new things to exist. And, you know, I was kind of comparing it to discovering like a new color. I mean, there were so many ways of you know, materiality and objective, like, you know, how to create or draw or render something, or the, you know, just points of view. I mean, there's so much from every artist that I was able to pick something up from, and just kind of absorb and get closer to, especially drawing on the wall. Like, and it loosened me up, and it reminded me to, like, just what's more important is to just kind of connect with the process, and you know, get it out of your head and into your hands, and you know, just find that chase that feeling, you know, look for that feeling of whatever it is that was compelling, and just follow that. And I think that, and a lot of other things have really kind of seeped more into my paintings and drawings, and to not be ashamed of, like, feeling dumb about what I'm doing in a way. And I'm always fighting that to some degree.
Thanks, Aaron. We're going to move on also and talk to Max Poznerzon. He is here with us tonight. Max likes to think of himself as an outlaw, cowboy, and rock and roller, but his wry smile and playful spirit gives way to his good-natured, gentle soul. He loves depicting joyous beach and nature scenes as much as he does motorcycles, electric guitars, and cowboy boots, some of his favorites. So Max, what would you like to tell us about your work?
I like to things just look at guitars,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the boots and
Yeah,
and flowers.
I think a lot of it relates back to memories of him growing up in America at, like growing up in the 50s and 60s and 70s, the rock and roll, the hamburgers, the hot dogs, a lot of it, Elvis, it all goes back to that. I don't know. I was talking to him today, and like the flowers are memories from Mom of her garden. But go ahead, Max.
thanks, Margie. Yeah, that's great to know. So a lot of your work, Max, is very kind of Americana. And I think what Margie said earlier, it's inspired by growing up in the 50s and 60s and also the music of the 60s and 70s. Is that right?
Yeah, rock and roll.
Rock and roll, yeah. And some people are commenting right now in the chat and saying so much energy in these works. These boots are fabulous, which I agree. And then we have, this is your piece called My Living Room, which is in, this is the original piece that it was based on that Aaron was talking about translating into the wall drawing.
Yeah.
And who is this on TV, Max?
Yeah.
Who is that on TV?
Elvis.
Elvis. So there's a great example of your musical influences. What did you think when you saw your work on the wall this way?
Because I like to see it Elvis Presley.
No, what did you like about seeing it in the installation?
Because I like the TV and antenna sticking out.
No,
Yeah.
he was asking, did you like seeing it on the walls at Art Enables in the installation? Did you like that?
Yeah.
Good.
Good fun.
Okay.
I like it.
Good. I like it too. I love it. And these are a couple of pieces that Aaron picked out of your work that he likes in particular. Aaron, can you unmute and share a little bit about these pieces briefly?
Yeah, Max, I love your work. First,
Thank you.
just say that. What I really love about these two pieces, and I bought the one on the right because I loved it so much. The way that you create water and waves and the simplicity of the clouds, the trees. I mean, it kind of takes me back a little bit to sort of like this 16-bit like early video game Nintendo kind of mindset, but it just like the perspective, like just getting that far out, being in a plane, like I'm in an airplane when I'm looking at this, and you do it with just so little. It's so economic, it's so smart. The waves are just so delicate, but then they also have their movement and there's a reflection of the trees in the water and it's just I'm jealous. I'm like, man, I want to be able to paint like this. It's so like I'm just there. I want to look at this all day, and the same thing with the battleship, like the waves and the plane. It's just I love that the waves, are just these little blobs of white, but they are waves. Like they read as waves. I feel them, and the way that it's hard to see in the photograph, but you also use you burn into them with a iron to make these lines, and those lines really kind of create a sense of volume. That's the paint and those burn marks into the wood give it such a nice feeling of just texture and space through the subtleties of intensity of darkness from the burning going in more and less. And I mean, I guess it's just the way that you create something that seems so simple but so pleasing. And the colors, I mean, the relationship between the colors are great. I mean, I can go on. They're wonderful.
I think it's good for Max to hear this because sometimes he compares himself to other artists and think he's not good. But, he has his own style and his own way of expressing himself. And to hear somebody, like his work and affirm that he's doing good work is good. It's nice for him to hear.
Yeah, I'll tell them all day, Max, you're a rock star. This is so good. I want to steal more of these ideas. No, because not malicious, but I just find them so satisfying, you know.
Like that submarine.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, I think it's just, I bought it. That's why I needed to live with it, you know.
Yeah.
It's so good. And you know, you've got a lot of other pieces too that are just fantastic. I mean, your boots and everything. And you know, as far as competition goes, I don't know. I think it's a sort of short-lived thing to be competitive in anything. It gives you energy, but really it's, you know, to me, when I see these, I see somebody making art for themselves and, you know, making something that they want to see and a world that they want to, you know, create or visualize or talk about, you know.
Yeah, and Max has a lot of fans for sure. So thank you. And we're getting some comments in the chat, Max, just so you know. People are saying your work is unique, it's fabulous. The wooded landscape is fabulous. Every artist feels that way, but your work is so strong. So Max, you've got a lot of fans of your work. Is there, yeah, thank you. Is there anything else you would want to say before we move on?
I love my job, painting. I love my sky, the sub, airplane, the mountain, and trees, and green grass, and the ocean.
Yeah, I love it too. Max, thank you so much for being here.
Welcome.
Okay, next we're going to take a look at Raymond Lewis's work. Let me read Ray's bio to you first. Raymond creates pieces of art that are full of movement, life, and detail. His work is wide-ranging, featuring subjects such as sweeping landscapes, unbridled wildlife, and portraits of people, both known and imagined. He draws inspiration from the world around him and from his love of comic books and graphic novels. Like Raymond himself, his work can be subtle and soft-spoken with a lot going on beneath the surface. So these are two pieces that are in the show. It's like a calendar that he made and a bird feeder that's in the front yard. And Raymond could not be with us tonight on the call, but he did take some time to talk to us about his work recently. And we're going to share a short video with you of that now. This video, oh, here, sorry, I wanted to point this out first. This is Raymond's window that was behind Max's TV. We flipped it in this case because it fit a little bit better there, but you can see it's pretty true to Ray's original drawing. So I'm going to share this short video with you. It is 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
I like to see the whole kitchen.
You like to see the whole kitchen, yeah. It's cool, right? And then that's your calendar that's hanging on the wall. What were you thinking about making that calendar?
Someday what they were doing crazy.
You think what?
Crazy drawing.
Crazy drawing?
Yeah. Fetch a cow, get all the woods out you. You even think what the heck that doing in the calendar?
What is that doing on the calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you wanted to make it like more interesting than a regular calendar?
Oh, yeah.
What does it feel like to you to be working on your drawings and paintings? What are you thinking about?
Feel like you're in kindergarten.
Feels like you're in kindergarten?
Yeah.
Like you're a kid again?
Yeah.
In a good way?
But that's what I was in for. I started drawing. Just a little boy.
Yeah, you were just little when you started?
Yeah. Yeah, I started drawing Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I started drawing that.
You like comics a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started drawing that at Pee-wee. Then I started drawing Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, so you got inspired to draw other comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because comics are a passion of yours, right?
Yeah. And he had a house just like this.
Oh yeah? Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker, yeah. Are you thinking about the drawings of his house and everything?
Yeah.
Does this remind you of that? Yeah? That's cool. So it's kind of like you're in Peter Parker's house that you helped draw. Right?
Your whole, it's like your whole room have different things like the real radio and the books.
Yeah, exactly. Like
library.
Right, it's like we're in a drawing of a house almost.
One you I don't know nobody that imagine this. When you walk down the street sometimes, on the street, you just imagine you see a real light. Think about the whole world. It come to you by this day.
It comes to you what?
The whole picture. Man, you got a picture in your brain, and you see a whole lot of just structures just stand there real. And you wonder where they come from. Yeah, and a poster, a big ride poster, that's what I dream about.
So you dream about?
Yeah.
Yeah, like this picture of the world?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And somebody said, what are you doing? Later, babe, dreaming about that. I said, it just come to me.
It just came to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're an artist.
Yeah.
You're a crazy artist.
Oh, I'm crazy about it.
Okay, so thanks to Ray for taking a minute to talk to us. And these are two pieces of Ray's that Aaron really liked a lot that we pulled out to check out as well. And next, we want to take a look at Michael Haynes. Michael Haynes is a lifelong Washingtonian and a free and enthusiastic spirit. His work frequently focuses on his love of all transportation modes. Michael sometimes likes to hand build his creations to bring a three-dimensional element to his work. When he's not busy recreating buses and ambulances, his favorites, he enjoys watching Pixar movies and playing music. So this amazing facade that we showed you earlier with the house was drawn by Michael, and this is the original drawing that Michael did. And this is another instance where we flipped it because it fit a little bit better in the space. And you saw also some of these cars and trucks were sort of in the bedroom, like little toys lined up in the bedroom there. Here's Michael in front of his house. He was really excited to see that in person. And these are a few works, Aaron, that you pulled out as some of your favorites. Would you like to say a couple quick things? We're at about 6:30, but would you like to say a couple of quick things about these works?
Oh man, I want to say so much more than a couple of quick things. They're so good. Like I don't know what this is. It a fruit? But it's a round ball that just has these eyebrows and a face, and it's just so damn compelling to me. I don't know what it is, but I love it. It's like sometimes you just see something you can't explain why it just gives you joy, and like there's like a menacing, weird like funniness to it. I don't know. I'm in love with all of his work, and you know the train that has all of these red-haired people. I'm guessing it's hair, but just this. Like it's so fascinating, like the colors and the little blip of like, I don't know if there was a mess up and then he needed to put another piece on top, but like it works, and it creates this feeling of like, you know, mass amounts of people that all kind of blur and blend in and look the same, and that experience of being on a train and just sort of seeing so many faces, and they kind of become just this one experience of people on the train. But you know, there's also these very little subtle differences, and same thing with his vehicles. I mean, I the same way that I fall in love with artists like James Castle or you know, other self-taught artists, there's this just immediacy and connection to whatever it is that is being rendered, and like a personal connection, and I feel like that is so true to this work. Like there's just an experience and a fascination and an immersion of like, I'm really into this, you know, to be able to create this.
Awesome, thank you. We are going to look also at Paul Lewis. He's the final artist Art Enables artist in this exhibition. Paul draws as easily and as rhythmically as most people breathe. He is equally at home in acrylic, watercolor, or oil pastel, and prefers strong color and line work to create form and texture. He takes inspiration from pop culture, sports, and current events. He's incredibly prolific in his practice and has been making work at Art Enables since 2002. So 2 of the wall drawings in this installation are by Paul. We looked at this one earlier. This is Paul's original painting based on Van Gogh's room. And then there's also the car that is in the front driveway that we took from from this drawing here, and these pieces are two of the pieces in the show as well. Aaron, do you have any comments about why you chose some of these works? What appealed to you about them?
Hell yeah, these works are so fucking good. Like, to me, this drawing on the left with this car, I love it. Like the purple with that green down there is insane to me. Like the way that it's like scratched through, and it just, the color and the color relationships are so on point. They're so beautiful. It's this clunky, almost like Philip Guston, but not, you know, like has this volume to it. And it's just, then there's this sky that's just like not as clunky. It's very flat and it feels like a night sky to me. And then the trees have some volume, but they're also like, the perspective is there with like the way that they're being rendered. The colors are just amazing. And like this, I'm sorry, but this image does not do it justice. It's so much better. And, you know, this self-portrait, I forget who he's with, but like in person, this piece blew me away. It was like the first time I saw Henry Darger's work. I was floored. I was just like, wow, the draftsmanship, the way that he's blending in the colors in the skin, it just, I mean, it's gorgeous. It just, it inspires me to want to just make and just find what other depths I can, you know, if I can get close to anything like that in my own work, you know, like that's so amazing. Yeah, and the moon shadow in that first drawing, it's just like, it's brilliant, and it all works, and the colors, they just make so much sense, you know. The small bird in that drawing too is like patched together. It's like a quilt, you know, and to think of a bird as a quilt is like really fresh to me. It's fantastic. And I just get really excited about all of these artists' work. I'm in the same way. Like there's just so much going on.
Great. And here's another piece that you pulled out.
Like, come on.
Well.
Like, look at that fucking sky. Like, that's insane. Like, it's just so good. It's like, it looks like mountains, but I've seen skies like that. I've seen a sunset where the contrast between the atmosphere and the clouds created something that looked like mass, like really fat clouds that looked like mountains. And I've never seen it drawn better than this. I've never seen it portrayed better than this. I mean, maybe Georgia O'Keeffe has got something similar with her cloud paintings, and like there's this kind of volume there, or, you know, Noguchi sculptures, but like this to me is like right there with them. Like it's right there. Like, you know, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Paul's work is incredible. And you can find more work from all of our artists on our website. There, I think in the chat, my coworkers have been linking directly to the artists we've been talking about. And in addition to the artists in the show, Aaron's been spending a lot of time over the last month going through all of the flat files of all of our artists' work, and he pulled out a handful of works that he wanted to share with you, and just have a few brief comments about each of these. The first of these is Calvin Sonny Clark. Aaron, do you want to say a few things about Calvin's work briefly?
Yeah, so like this next grouping of artists and the ones before, to me, is like if I was to make you guys a Spotify playlist, you know, curated just for you guys to be like, yo, these songs are gonna make me feel good about sharing them with you. So I'll start with that. This work is amazing. We have a cherry blossom tree that's pink on the right. I've never seen a cherry blossom like that. Like I was telling Marissa earlier, it's like seeing a new color that you've never seen before. Like to me, it's gorgeous. I mean, it's just the way that, like, how could I look at a cherry blossom and not think of this again? Like this has become my new reference point for a cherry blossom. It's just in DC where we have all these cherry blossoms in the spring. It's just, you see this mass of color, and it's just the first bright, big color. You know, there's the crocuses and all that, but these trees, yes, like that's what it's about. It's about this enveloping color, and you feel that when you see them up close. I mean, the same thing with this, it's called Blue Rainbow. I mean, I remember the name of that because I've never even thought of a blue rainbow. Like that title in and of itself is brilliant. Blue Rainbow, like to think of a rainbow and just these different blues and you know, like the idea of it to me it just made me feel so good to imagine a blue rainbow.
We also have Eileen Schofield here.
I can The popsicles, I think, are called popsicles at night, on the right. And then the one on the left, I believe, is called, and there's no title, so I'm not like reading, I'm just remembering because they really touched me so profoundly. I think the one on the left is they're trees and or flowers, I can't remember. But I mean, I've never seen a tree like that. I'll never see a tree like anybody, you know, that is brilliant to me. Like it's just, it's gorgeous, you know. I like Kusama reminds me of like several different artists that I can, but they're not, you know, this is its own thing. It's its own language. It's a new sound. It's a new word. It feels so fresh to me. And I feel like it's exciting to be able to see trees in this way. And it's so imaginative and interesting, you know, like it really shares that, you know, the human experience is so vast and the imagination is so vast, and you know, we can really like, there's always room for more and new, you know, and I love that about this work. Giraffe. Like, show me a fucking better giraffe. And trees, look at these trees on the left, like they're insane. They look like, I don't know, like they're just so good, you know. They remind me of like so many different wonderful things that I can't even begin to recall. Like a Brancusi sculpture maybe on the left, and or maybe, you know, the giraffe is like some kind of Cezanne cutouts or something, or not Cezanne, Matisse cutouts, and I just, I mean, the way that the space and the landscape is rendered is so flat, but also yet still has depth, because in between the trees you have these like little squigglies that kind of create my eye going back in that direction, and the little tiny feet that support this giant giraffe, you know, it's amazing.
Next, we have Egbert Clem Evans. Is another one of the artists you've pulled out. Aaron, would you like to share a few brief things about Clem?
Yeah, I mean, it's so good. I geek out about all of these artists' work. I mean, I want to go to this place, but I also don't, because it terrifies me and it excites me at the same time. I mean, it's got this like funhouse carnival like weirdness, and that's how it's the only way I can begin to access how I feel about this space, is like remembering going to these state fairs or you know, county fairs, and they have these fun houses that, you know, have been traveling all over the country, and they're sort of dilapidated, but they're also very creepy and fun, but like weird, and I think that, to me, this goes beyond that. Like, this goes into like, you know, this very strange like portraiture that's happening with the sun and these animals, and you'll see in the next slides a couple of these portraits. Clem's portraiture to me is so like, he has such a beautiful way of like creating emotions through line, color, you know, and just compositions, the way that they're leaning into each other, the way that they're like look at those hands on, I guess they're a steering wheel. I don't know if he's in a car or what, but the eyes, the mouth, the expressions, the you know, the glasses that kind of hide, and the animals. I mean, everything is so interesting to me, and it has such, I mean, there's such a character, such a life to these people, you know, and I think they're just fantastic. You know, the way that everything is sort of pushed and squeezed and squished into each other, you know?
Yeah, agreed. You also pulled out Dennis Quillen.
Dennis, man. Dennis is just on another level. I mean, to me, Dennis is like, the one on the left is called Cold Feet. And if I hadn't had that title, I would have thought they were houses or something. But when I see them as toes, I'm just like, wow, I've never seen a painting of just two toes, or a drawing of two toes that looked, I've never seen one, period. But this to me is amazing. The coldness of that purple becomes very real, and that feeling of like having cold feet is there. But what's more interesting to me is this focus on two toes. You know, it's so strange, but it's also just so intimate, and it's so tender, and yet it's very human. You know, it's like, if I think about the idea of cold feet and like just coming out of like walking in the snow or whatever, like how you can just look at these two toes and find yourself like feeling sad about, or maybe not sad, but just feeling this kind of connection to that moment. They're very poetic. Dennis's work to me is very, very poetic. The one on the right is called Antlers. Again, like to think about antlers from that view, to take what has been given to me and imagine antlers. Am I looking at the back of an animal's head or the side? You know, where do the antlers begin and which way are they heading? You know, and the colors are gorgeous, you know, and there's a care that's being given to the way that they're drawn and the lightness of the pencil. These are pencil, right? On colored pencil. I mean, there's just a tenderness to these. The compositions are fantastic. I think the negative space, everything just works so well for me. Yeah, and they're small. They're not very big, so they have this intimacy to them. But they're just stunning.
They're kind of in between. I think I don't remember the exact sizes of these pieces, but they're in between roughly 11 by 14 and as large as 18 by 24 potentially. Oh, thank you, Courtney. The sizes are in the chat. Yeah, Dennis has this really amazing feathery quality to his work that I really love also. This is another Dennis piece. And who else do we have? We have Maurice Barnes.
Yeah, I think Maurice to me is probably one of the best illustrators I've ever seen. I mean, these two works are only a few of the many, 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 many works that he has in his flat file. And what's for me particularly incredibly like just such a gift is that every character that he has, and I try to pick one that has a bunch of characters in it, they all have an expression, they all have their individuality, they're all thought of as individuals with different things about them. They're looking maybe all in the same direction, but they have something different. There's something, and I feel like there's just like these worlds are so complicated and so detailed. They're so rich with so many things going on. And the one on the left is called "Uh-Oh, Something's Wrong," and I think the one on the right is Halloween Special or Holiday Special. I can't remember if it's Halloween or Holiday, but I mean, they're gorgeous. I think he's an incredible illustrator and an artist, and they're just fantastic works.
Yeah, Maurice has an incredible amount of detail in his work, and like you mentioned, just an incredible amount of emotion on every single character, and really a big range of emotions within even a single piece. Okay, we have just a few more artists. We have Jamila Rahimi, whose work is on the screen now.
Again, just another artist who's showing me something that I'd never have seen in my life in this way, and work that just feels like stained glass, that is so, meticulous and also just labor intensive to have these colors and then use markers or pens to create this darkness that envelops these little lights. I find so much pleasure in just looking at these abstractions and so much volume and depth and the compositions and the choices. They're amazing, and there's so many different varieties of how Jamila composes these that it's, I think as an artist, it's always hard to kind of try and feel like you're not copying your own work or doing something interesting or different. But I mean, with Jamila, it feels like it's effortless and so interesting.
Yeah. Here's Jay Bird.
Yeah, so I really love this piece. This actually, Terry, I'm still working on that de Kooning book. But there's some work that de Kooning did where he used these eyes, these like in a painting. I think it was before Rauschenberg was doing collages in that way. But these eyes, the way that they sit on the paper, reminded me of how de Kooning kind of did that, but in their own way. And there's this like intensity to the line and the intimacy and these noses touching and it's kind of grotesque rendering of these people, but then it seems like they're also very much about to kiss, or maybe they're arguing, or they're just, I don't know if those are tears or sweat or what, but there's something so carnal, so human about this, and the way that mouths are open, and that sort of redness of the lips, and the mouths are kind of jagged and crusty, and I mean, all of that residue of line and mark making mimics and reminds me so much of the residue of the human body, and the way that these bodies are excreting and you know, into each other. And I think that's, you know, that's, it's so much about how we interact, and how we kind of pull away from that as like disgusting or repulsive, but here it is, you know, being presented in a very overt, personal way. And I love it. I think it creates such a really beautiful dynamic about, you know, these ways that we interact with people, whether they're romantic or you know, in any other type of way.
And this is our final piece that you pulled out. This is by Michael Schaff.
This is Napoleon. So the title of this painting or drawing or painting, I can't even, because it's so multimedia, is Napoleon. Unfortunately, this is a small piece, so you really have to kind of get close to it to see all the nuances of like the color, the way that the liquid or water or something was used to sort of smear and create this kind of blending of the graphite and the marker and possibly other you know, tools that were used to paint this or draw it. But I mean, again, like, it's just a beautiful composition. There's so much depth. It's so simple. I think this thing is really small, actually. It's like, I want to say like 4x7, something really it's like a little, you know, card, like one of those cards that you would use to, it's like a postcard size. It's so small, but it's amazing how much, you know, the composition makes so much sense to me and works so well to me. And to think of it as Napoleon, like, it just takes it to this other level. It's like Cy Twombly when he inserts like one of those like little, you know, Parnassus or something, and you're just like looking at these scribbles, and then you see Parnassus, and you're just like, what? You know, like, how is this Parnassus? That's where I kind of enter into Michael's work, is with this like wonder of like, how can Michael see Napoleon in this? But it is Napoleon, and I'll buy it, and more than that, I'll check myself and be like, damn, I need to rethink about how I think about portraiture and Napoleon and that whole thing. And I love that. I think art should do that. It should challenge our assumptions and ideas about the world that we live in. And I think all of these artists are doing that effortlessly and with such conviction, and in ways that, you know, are invaluable to having on record. And so being able to look at this work is just so rewarding in that way.
Great, thank you. So we are reaching the end of our event. If anyone has any last minute questions you want to pop in the chat, you can do so now. Like I said earlier, please definitely do come see the show in person. It's very rewarding to see in person and really best experience that way. And also, like we said before, we have hundreds, actually probably thousands of pieces of work by our artists on our website, which you can view on the artist page. All very affordable work. And when you purchase work from Art Enables, 70% of your purchase goes directly to the artists. So check that out, come visit us. I want to say thank you to all of the artists for being here tonight and sharing about your work. Aaron, thank you so much for all of your hard work. It looks like, I don't know if we have any other questions, but Aaron, do you have any other closing comments before we sign off?
Well, there was I think a question, I don't know if it got answered in all of the conversation, but about what I learned from working with the artists here. And I don't know if I stressed it enough, but I just feel like there's so much to learn in general from like, you know, very technical things of how to render things and different ways to like use colors and mark making. And so very like formally, yes, there's so much I've learned, and emotionally, yeah, there's like this the way that Max was talking about, you know, he loves the beach, he loves the submarines, he loves the trees. He like, yeah, like that is the reason to make art. That is a reason to make art, to love something and to want to create your impression or relationship of it on something because you love it so much is definitely a very worthwhile reason to make art. And if anything, what I'm, affirming in my own work is that love of like life, love of being human, and wanting to make a mark on this earth, just like the cave drawings. You want to leave something that shows that you loved something, you felt something, you were alive, you were here. And this strange, painful, weird, romantic existence of humanness, you want to connect with something to make sure that it stays here for someone else, or that other people can get something from it. So I've definitely relearned a lot of that in doing a lot of this work here.
Awesome, thank you. And thank you so much to everybody who joined us tonight. We hope to see you soon. Have a lovely evening.